Daniel, Danny, Dan, you said you accept all Daniels equally. Roebuck, thank you for coming on the show.
I'm going to make up new ones like Danathan.
And they can call me Jordaniel.
Well, anybody who's a kid knows that your name is your name plus some mix of your siblings.
Sure.
So every kid at some point has been John, Dan, Joe, Rick.
Oh yeah.
I'm just mad at all children.
I'm just mad at you. Well, it's like I'm mad at the world. So I'm definitely mad at all of you.
Can I start by saying I love your Munsters figures you have in the background that, of course, our audience can't see.
Yeah, they can't see them.
But they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
Why can't they see them?
Oh, well, because it's audio only.
Yeah, we only do audio.
I went to all this trouble. I don't have this shit around.
Lloyd Kaufman said the same thing to us when we interviewed him. He had his whole office decked out specifically for that interview. And we got like 2/3 of the way through it before he was like, what do you mean I'm not on video right now?
Then the green screen shut off and he was in a warehouse.
Yeah. So all right, so I've known you since I was a child watching Matlock with my grandmother, but I did do
were you being punished?
No, I loved that show as a child. We share a love for Andy Griffith. I think Andy Griffith was an amazing man. He was an incredible actor, way more versatile than people realize, because I think most people think Andy Griffith or Matlock when they think Andy Griffith. They think the Andy Griffith Show or Matlock, but like he played some darker roles earlier on in his career.
Well, you should see. I mean, he's a very lucky actor because Facing the Crowd, which was his first film.
Sure.
Would have defined any other actor for the rest of their career. But if we learn one thing from Andy Griffith as a performer, it's that he moved effortlessly between comedy and drama.
Sure.
And you know how he was made, how he got a name for himself was as a raconteur. You know, he told, so what it was football, and what it was Shakespeare. And he talked about going to a football game for the first time as like a guy from a small town in North Carolina. And that's people, he'd go to the Rotary clubs and he'd talk, and then he became more famous. So Andy Griffith is, if you're a classic movie fan, you could watch No Time for Sergeants and The Face in the Crowd and know The Face in the Crowd of Face in the Crowd was filmed first.
Sure.
And No Time for Sergeants was filmed second. And the difference of the two characters, it's like watching Rod Steiger in Heat of the Night and watching Rod Steiger in The Loved Ones.
Sure.
If I ever had my ability to have like the Daniel Roebuck film forum, it would be, I would match actors' films and I would show you what a great actor is. A guy, you know, Ray Fiennes, Ray Fiennes, this guy, if you put The Dig and Schindler's List, and you go, tell me that's the same character, the same guy.
Or like Red Dragon and Voldemort, right? Like, right?
Quiz
like
show,
which are
right?
actually oddly similar charhaters, but
Red Dragon and Voldemort don't actually show the differentiation.
That's fair.
But he is. I watch. I'm just such a fan of movies. I watch Schindler's List often. I think it's certainly one of the best movies ever made. And the performances of, there's a whole sequence for Ray Fiennes. He has a woman shot, and then he's trying to pick a maid, but he goes, I'm sorry, I have a cold, and he doesn't want to give the girl the cold.
Yeah.
After he just shot her friend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like. Well, so well written.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film.
I just read a really cool story about the filming of Schindler's List. That apparently at the time, Robin Williams, on his own volition, started calling Steven Spielberg every night at the end of shooting because the shit was so heavy for him that Robin Williams was like, oh, I got to cheer this guy up. And like Steven Spielberg had no idea for the first like month. That's what was he thought Robin Williams was just being super codependent and calling him, but it was intentional. It was to cheer Steven Spielberg up because he knew how heavy it was to have to make that movie.
And people like as film fans, I'm always intrigued when people they take a swipe at Spielberg. Look, anybody, if I was afraid to have a third kid because I had two great kids, I thought, the third one's going to be a jerk.
Why push the luck? Yeah.
Like we were doing pretty good. So you can't make 25 films and have all of them be Jaws.
Sure.
But the guy was editing Jurassic Park while he was making Schindler's List. you know, and it's just kind of an extraordinary. I mean, the dichotomy of him as a director.
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
also-
and the pure influence on Hollywood, cinema, just filmmakers alone who are making movies today. You can't possibly shit on Spielberg and say that he's not, at the very least, a massively influential filmmaker. He's changed the game.
I think you're 100% correct, and I think it's, you know, we're in kind of this world where nihilism is being celebrated, and someone, you know, I have a very talented friend, and you know, he's a heck of a nice guy, but you know, he's done a few things, but you know, would say, you know, in a conversation would say, "Oh, Chris Nolan's a terrible filmmaker." I may not like what Chris Nolan. I think maybe the movies are a little talky, but you can't say he's not a great filmmaker.
Sure.
Jeez, you guys, when you watch any movie where there's a car chase, I'm already like, you win.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to like people that shit on professional athletes. Like, oh, that guy's not very good. He's still better than like 90% of the population at sports. Like, even if he's the least talented person on that team, he's still a professional.
Yeah, there's this bad symptom of like taking, you know, your opinion and just stamping it as fact.
But that's, I mean, we're living in some weird society where now, you know, that is the norm. Instead of having, look, what was great about, you guys are too young, but when Siskel and Ebert came on the scene, which was maybe 79 or 80 or 81, I mean, it was a long time ago. It was two guys giving their opinion, and everybody watched it. Everybody watched it because they didn't always agree.
Yeah.
And when they disagreed, they were, you know, they were snarky toward the other opinion, but they were both, I mean, it was a conversation. It wasn't a monologue. And I think that, you know, those of you at home, I'm holding up a phone.
He is.
If you're listening to this on a phone.
I'm confirming that he is.
I'm confirming
Yes.
that Jordan's confirming.
Thank you for that.
Thank you,
I concur.
JB. Thank you, Jordan, for confirming my phone. But the point I'm making is your whole world is in this, and you forget that nobody really gives a shit about your opinion.
No.
You want to,
Not
and
at all.
especially, yeah, you want to look. Here's what I've done. I make movies,
Yeah.
so you know now that's two things. One is I didn't just say you should make a movie about this, which is what whenever I announce a movie, somebody says, no, don't make a movie about that. Make a
Right.
movie about this,
Right.
and I think you make a movie about
It's
that.
like clearly it's important to you,
Well,
so why don't you do it?
Yeah.
It's funny because you
Figure out how to do it. You know, I had to first I had to get into movies myself. I had to figure that out.
Yeah.
Then I had to figure out how to get in good movies, and I had to figure out how to get in many movies, and then I had to figure out how to take the best of everything and make my own movies.
yeah.
And so why do you think I should serve your artistic you know, intent?
Well, and that's art in general, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's art, and anybody that creates something, there's always someone that's like, well, you should have done this. And it's like, what, why aren't you doing that? Like,
Yeah, and that's my kind of throwdown. I know we're in a very woke culture. My throwdown is don't demand of other people that their movies match your agenda.
yeah.
Yeah.
Make the movies. You know,
And that's one thing I hear in the horror community about Rob Zombie, who obviously you work with constantly.
not enough, constantly, but still not enough.
Well, I mean, as far as the Rob Zombie filmography is concerned, you're in many of them.
Yes.
And a lot of horror fans, I hear it all the time, and it makes me upset when they're like, oh, Rob Zombie's a trash filmmaker, blah, blah,
No,
blah,
he's
blah. And
not.
I'm like,
What are we talking about?
he
No,
is an
he's
incredible
not. That dude
filmmaker.
knows more about film. All right, I've watched so many interviews with Rob Zombie and have my mind blown every time with the sheer magnitude of his knowledge of cinema. Like,
and
He has a vast.
yeah,
Yes.
like scary.
You know
big.
why? Because he doesn't watch. Rob Zombie doesn't sit down at night and only watch. I don't know what he watches except when I'm around him. What I know he watches when I'm around him. He's not watching some Blumhouse horror film. You know, he's watching Ingmar Bergman, and
Sure.
he's watching Casablanca, and he's watching great movies. He and Cherry love great movies.
and And you can see it in their cinema, like in Lords of Salem when they've got the giant tapestry to Voyage to the Moon, like behind her bed, right? You know?
Yeah, in her bed. Yeah.
Beautiful.
No, it's clearly Rob is, and he's great at putting a little, what do you call it, an Easter egg or a wink at you. For people who, it's not like he's saying this movie is Journey to the Moon, but what he's saying is, you've got a nod to George Méliès in your frame. If you've done that, you've already done more than many people who make movies who don't have a sense of history. Because truly, I always try to work with, I don't know, I have a teacher's heart, and I loved the great teachers in my life. Those who are still alive are still my friends so many years later, but I have a teacher's heart, and it's always like, you can't, actors, you can't just sit in a class and talk about what acting is.
Sure.
Oh, what my new thing to tell actors is go to 1968 and watch every great movie you can from 1968 to 1978. That gives you a decade of 20 films a year, 200 films. Call me when you've seen them all. So you don't know, how do you know how to play the jerk who screws everybody over if you haven't watched the Towering Inferno?
Sure.
And and watch Dr. Kildare, be like, what do you care? I did. Like, you watch these great performances, or you watch these great movies, and then you try to tell stories.
Yeah.
Whether you're an actor or, I may have gone off topic.
No.
There is no topic to get off of. Yeah, no.
We should get on topic. We'll do this, and someone will say, what you should have talked about?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I just want to circle back. You've been in over 250 roles, like TV and that's insane. That's that's more than Nicolas Cage, and that.
Oh, wow. That's a good perspective to put it in.
I looked this up specifically because I was like, I saw your number and was like, oh, Cage has got to be close to that. Nope, he is nowhere close to that number, and that's wild.
That's why years ago, when it was the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and I'm a very big fan of Kevin Bacon, but that was a weird actor to choose as the.
Right.
I always thought so too.
The poll.
Yeah.
Because movie star. Look, Keanu Reeves and I think we were both in one movie or two movies before we did River's Edge, both of us. Since then, Keanu Reeves, great guy, very talented young fella, has had the honor of having, I couldn't guess, maybe if you count in his guest stars and his voiceovers, maybe he's 55, 60 things he's been on.
Sure.
And while he got to be a movie star, making one or two movies a year, I had a wife and 2 kids. So I even if God was like, you're going to be a movie star, you're going to make 1 or 2 movies a year, there was no way to do it. I had to use the talent I had to feed my family. So thus, I auditioned for everything, and I've been in everything, and I'm grateful that I've been. I always say I've been, like, I'm in the biggest blockbusters and the tiniest little independent movies, and I'm blessed to be in both. And I don't give the tiny independent movie, I don't dial down my godly gifts and be like, well, you're not really paying me, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I do the same job that I do with The Fugitive or the Final Destination.
Yeah.
I'm on the set. I know my lines.
Well, you do the best you do. Yeah.
I agree. I've seen The Fugitive and I've seen Wild Boar, Barney Burnham's movie. and you're right. It is you're given the same energy in both of right?
Yeah. We actually enjoyed we got to talk to Barney a little bit.
Yeah.
We caught up with him at a festival and we got to see the movie.
I think we saw that I think we were at the East Coast premiere.
I think
of
so.
I believe.
Oh
yeah.
So Wild Boar is a funny story. So Barney Burnham, for those of you who may not remember, is a Oscar-winning special effects man, a friend, a longtime friend. Because I collect horror movie memorabilia, I have a lot of friends in the makeup business, and always have had friends. Barney being one of those friends. Anyway, we were reunited thanks to Grimm, where he turned me into a Bauerschwein. And on the second, I was a pig monster. And on the second time we went, he and I had a nice dinner. He said, I'm working on this movie where it's like Planet of the Apes, Planet of the Pigs, Planet of the Apes. there's these pigs and humans, and I was like, yes, yes. Do you want to play one of the main pigs? Yes, yes, I'll do it, but I want to play a person too.
Hell yeah.
So that's because I had to ask him. I said, "Did you ask me to be a person?" And I said, "I want to be one of the pigs," or did you ask me to be a pig? And I said, "I wanted to be a person." So he did inform me that I wanted to be a person. So I do double duty. You actually see I'm the pig.
Yeah, you're the butcher. Yeah,
the butcher. Then you see my dead head on the wall of the butcher. So I'm in.
That's
like I'm
awesome.
like, oh, that's me. That's me.
That's so much
surreal.
So how was that experience? We talked to Barney a little bit about how brutal it was with the heat and the makeup and the level of effects.
Yeah. It was brutal. But you know what? He put a great team together. He put a great team together, so that's good. And even my wife is a partner and a filmmaker. When she was on the set, she was holding the boom sometimes, or operating a camera or something, if I recall.
That's indie film, baby.
That's indie film. So it was hard, and I don't think anybody, if you interview anybody, they'll ever say, "Oh yeah, Dan was really surly on that." I'm usually very not surly, but I remember being in. So it wasn't just the silicone makeup. There was also a foam suit made by the same geniuses, and I'm not using that as a joke. The genius who made the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Nice.
So and it's a sin that I don't remember his name, but his son played in Soaked in Bleach.
Soaked in Bleach. That's the Cobain documentary.
Kurt Cobain. Yeah. I think his son played Kurt Cobain,
cool.
if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So weird confluence of career. Anyway, so we're in the thing. I'm in the suit. I'm in the silicone. It's 110 degrees, and we're out there where the ground actually bubbles in the salt.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those are great shots.
I've camped out there. I know exactly.
You've camped out there? Hate it.
Well, I've camped in the Southwest in some pretty remote and desolate areas, and it's dangerous. You have to know what you're doing, or you can die that way.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I remember just sitting on an apple box, and they were discussing a shot, and I think I said, "Hey guys, turn on the effing camera right now and shoot something." Because you're starting. You just.
Well, yeah.
I was performing, for those of you at home. I was acting out fainting.
I can confirm he acted out.
I will also confirm that.
I concur.
He fainted.
So it was hard, but who cares? It's hard sometimes to make movies.
Yeah. Oh
Sure.
no, but it comes through in the movie. That kind of brutality comes through, like with the Texas Chainsaw. When people tell you it was 100+ degree on that set, nobody's shocked. Everyone's like, well, yeah, it looks like it.
It looks like, and I know, like the guy who they put in the Granpa makeup was
fantastic.
And then he was in that makeup for 24 hours.
Brutal.
Brutal. Brutal.
Well, so I want to pivot a little bit and back up a little bit and talk about growing, because we don't live that far from where you grew up. We're in Frederick, Maryland, and you're from Bethlehem, which is it's outside Allentown. Right?
Well, I actually went to college at Muhlenberg, which was in Allentown, right near Bethlehem. So I actually spent quite a bit of time in around Bethlehem, PA.
What did you major in?
We were actually the first class to have a film studies major. So I double majored with film studies and media communication.
Was Doc Ogden one of your teachers?
I didn't have Ogden, but Ogden was there.
Yeah. He's a good guy, a good friend. And what's great about Frederick, Maryland is we played Getting Grace there 2 years ago.
At the Weinberg?
We played it at the Weinberg, and we were partners with Stauffer's Funeral Home. They're friends of yours?
What? No, they're just very famous.
Yeah, we hang there all the time.
We
it's
have
a big
2
hangout
funeral
for us.
homes in our town, and there's Stauffer, and then there's the other one that no one ever goes to.
There's the cool kid funeral home, and then the other one,
Exactly.
Yeah. When I die, I want to be at the cool. Right. Well, let me tell you something. They're a terrific family, friends, great people. If you're listening to this and you are in Frederick, Maryland, it's a great place to die.
Hell yeah. You heard it from Danny Roebuck first.
Yeah. It's just funny, with Getting Grace, it took us around to a lot of, gave us opportunity to meet a lot of funeral directors.
Yeah.
I do have, do you know that I have an honorary funeral director's degree.
I did
What?
not know
I
that.
should just say funeral director's degree and then later go honorary.
You say honorary.
Yeah, exactly.
Honorary, yes. Because the Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science gave me a degree because Getting Grace funeral directors feel has done such a great job in exposing to people what the work really is and the heart of funeral directors. So they awarded me that.
Well, so Getting Grace is the movie you directed, right?
I co-wrote with Jeff Lewis and directed about a teenage girl dying of cancer, goes into a funeral home to find out what's going to happen after she dies, and she ends up teaching the funeral director how to celebrate life. So it's a life affirming comedy in the world of death and dying. If you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon Prime, it's on Apple.
Well, you know, the other connection Frederick has to funeral homes is that Hood College, which is in downtown Frederick, is one of like 5 schools in the country that offers a master's in thanatology, which is the psychology behind death. And like people that go into hospice care oftentimes get their masters in that. And there's a lot of that. Like I watched as much of Getting Grace as I could before I came here. And I apologize, I didn't get to finish it. But there's a lot of thanatology in that film. There's a lot of exactly what you said, celebrating life at the end of it instead of lamenting the death part of it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely helped even me I get my head around. Although I've never been a bucket list guy, and if I had, that's maybe a book I'll write called "Kick the Bucket List," because if you're not living, I used to say I thought when I started writing Getting Grace, co-writing it, I thought it was, about living every day like it's your last. And then right before it came out, I had this epiphany. My gosh, it's about living every day like it's your first. Because if it's your last, maybe you pull out that list of people you hate and you'll go, I have 6 bullets. I can get to that side of town again.
I can finally burn down the DMV.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can say, do you remember me? Remember when you would not let me use my good picture? You took a shitty picture on my, but really, if you live every day like it's your first, then I always say, and it's you'll see thematic in the movie is the sunrise, sunset. And I think that God gave us an opportunity. The sunset is the reset.
Sure.
Right. So you can say you were mad at your wife, and I've never been mad at my wife.
Never ever.
No, we have a pretty good marriage.
Nice.
She's really a sweet person. So it's not really a lot you could get mad at, You did not fold my underwear.
That's funny. My partner Karen actually got mad at me recently for folding her underwear incorrectly.
Oh, well.
But she's also super pregnant, so like.
But you also worked retail, so you have all these fancy folding things that I've never seen before.
Oh yeah, you're one of
Yeah.
You're a folding freak. I know those.
He is.
People.
I am.
You have the little boards at your house.
Well, so
you're like, oh, I've got to do my laundry.
Yep. I don't
exactly.
Because I used that board so long when I worked at Spencer's Gifts that I can do that fold without the board.
Oh,
He's
wow.
seen me do
Okay.
it. Well,
Board
so
free.
Getting Grace, there's a lot of faith in Getting Grace. And as a former Bible college student, like I still consider myself a person of faith. I always love I'm really interested when I find out what like celebrities that have like that there's a faith background there. So my question is like, how much does that influence your work? Because like I know you have the show on the new Evangelization Network, the classic with Dan.
Oh yeah, we did that. Well, so how did my work, faith absolutely influenced it,
sure.
because my work, I make faith-based family movies. When I make a movie, so Getting Grace has an element of people finding faith. The Lucky Louie, the movie I wrote and directed with my daughter Grace Roebuck, is about forgiveness and redemption, and the Hail Mary is about redemption. So they're entertainments first. I hope I've entertained you with my movies, and then I hope when you're done watching it, you go, those characters, there was something about them. What was it? Oh yeah, it was a relationship with God. So it's hard to be a proponent of God. I never talk about politics publicly, and I don't really care about anybody else's politics. I think actors would be surprised to know that nobody really cares.
Nobody really gives a shit. No.
Nobody cares what actors think about anything. And I know this is a shock to many actors that they think, well, because I don't have a college education and because I was lucky enough to be on a TV show, people want to know what I think about them and their lifestyle. It's not any of our places to dictate to any other person. And I mean, that goes both ways.
Yeah.
So I never talk about politics, but I'll always promote a godly relationship because I don't think our world can exist without an acknowledgement that we're in it together. You don't even have to. I don't even care if you believe in what higher power you believe in, because frankly, I'll make a Christian movie, a Jewish movie, I'll make a Muslim movie if I find the story that I feel that I can tell correctly.
Dude, I love that. I love that.
I just want you to know that you're not the center of the world.
Yeah.
So there's like a humanist nature to your faith-based filmmaking.
Yeah, it's very ecumenical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, as someone who still considers himself a person of faith, like I get asked all the time, like, oh, how do you reconcile your faith to the fact you have a podcast about fucking horror movies? And it's like, well, number one, I don't think that's a relevant conversation. But number two, if anything, my faith reinforces my love of horror films. Like there's a lot of faith in horror, in my opinion.
Watch The Exorcist and say there's not.
Yeah, or even just
well, the Exorcist is probably the most successful faith-based movie that was ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Where
Right?
the priest is the good guy, the devil's the bad guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much more simple
well,
than that,
even
does
just
it?
the general idea of things like good versus evil, things like grace, things like redemption, like
Dualities like
those
that,
are
yeah.
all arcs in film, in cinema, in art in general, right? And like, there's no reason those things can't be reconciled in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, if someone there's people who make movies that are just about violence or terror, horror, and that's a class of filmmaking, or it doesn't degrade anything. My feeling is, if you only put that out, that's the seed you're planting everywhere. So, I have no problem playing child molesters on Criminal Minds.
Sure. Yeah.
And then because then I put my, then I play my tree over here. So, I've played this part. People, I know Christian actors who won't kiss another woman on screen who's not their wife, and that's they have a different kind of comprehension of the faith that I do. So they have theirs and I have mine. If my job, I'll kiss a guy. If I'm playing that guy who kisses a guy.
Hell yeah.
I don't, I just don't really see it as that at all. I'm never playing myself.
Exactly. It's a character.
Real me.
Yeah. It's all just make believe. So you don't find anything to reconcile there with, like, say, like your role in 31, where you are a priest who gets axed in the first scene.
Yeah. Well, he's a reverend.
A reverend, yes.
Because he's married. Yeah, Pastor Victor. So, I'm just happy to work with Rob Zombie, and I had a great opportunity to watch Richard Brake do that tour de force.
Oh my God, his monologue that opens that? What?
Yeah, and you guys don't understand. You watched it at home in the comfort of your couch. I was strapped to a chair with water dripping on me. So I was truly
like
captured to watch that few takes.
Richard Brake, he just plays a psychopath like nobody else.
Yeah,
it's quite impressive.
He's it's funny. I've known him for quite a while. We did a series together that they actually turned into a couple of TV movies called Mob City. That's when I kind of met him the first time. He's definitely such a unique. I mean, there's a chameleon. One of my favorite movies of the last 3 years was Death of Stalin, and I was like, "There's Richard Brake.
Yeah,
he did Death of Stalin.
Yeah,
how do you get in that?" I was just like, I want to be in Death of Stalin.
He appears in random stuff. He appeared in one of those Star Wars properties recently.
He's in
he was in Mandalorian. And he's he kills Batman's parents.
Joe Chill in Batman Begins.
Batman.
I just watched Batman Begins this morning. Like as I was getting,
Oh,
as I was
did you?
getting ready. Yeah.
Oh, that's why you didn't have time to watch Getting Grace.
No, I'm just constantly watching something.
This man is always watching Batman Begins. He doesn't have time for anything else.
It's that my partner is away on work right now, and I'm left by myself in my house.
So you've impregnated this poor woman, and you make her work, and you sit at home while she's working, carrying a mini JB.
Dude, podcast host without a partner or a wife is homeless. I'm kidding. I totally am gainfully employed. I'm sorry, Karen, if you're listening.
I hope Karen's not offended, and I'm sure
not at all. She has a wonderful.
I'm sure she'll consider Daniel as a legitimate baby name.
All I got to do is be like, honey, he was in The Fugitive, and she's gonna be like, all right, he's all right. He's all right.
Pass the test.
Have you guys seen that brilliant? This is like they spend all the money on whatever, Doctor Strange, whatever. But then the guy makes the Batman parody video. He takes the Robert Pattinson Batman and he puts Adam West.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
What? It's mind blowing.
Oh, yeah.
And the Penguin and the Riddler, and then all of a sudden you're like, like that. I like that movie, but these guys are really entertaining.
Is that Burgess Meredith?
Yeah, it was just. I thought the guy's his parody was so smart.
Yeah, it was so on. The level of effects that people are finding to like do those kind of deep fake effects like that are just amazing.
And it's
these days.
a whole new world because you don't really need that much gear to do that, right? You just it's a knowledge set that is a very generationally specific knowledge set. Like I don't have that knowledge set. I'm too old.
But that's why I'm impressed with a filmmaker who understood had a gift of parody, understood how exactly to. I'm all about parodying things, but people are like, I've been in this situation. Let's say in a work situation where they're like, this is a parody of this. And I say, no, it's not. You want to do a parody of I'm just like a commercial about Trulicity or any of those things that you see constantly on TV. But commercials are all the same. If you were going to parody them, you couldn't do a commercial at a rock concert. You'd have to do it the way they do it,
right, to
make a real parody. Anyway, I just thought the guy, his storytelling techniques, whoever it is, did a very, very good job.
Hell yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Rob Zombie. We would love to talk about your upcoming role as Granpa Munster himself.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh, is that the Granpa Munster voice right there? Did we just get a taste?
Yeah, you got it for free.
Ooh.
You didn't have to pay me a dime.
Nice. No, I was going to pay him a dime, too.
I think my favorite thing about this iteration of the Munsters is Rob Zombie is traditionally known for making brutal, hard R horror films, and this is a straight-up PG-rated family film.
It's a Munsters
movie. I could not be happier that Rob Zombie is making this.
Yeah, we were happy to see that initially because we were just like, you can do an R-rated Munsters, but does anyone want to see that, really?
Yeah, why would you?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us what you can. I know that it's not out yet, so you're probably under an NDA, and there's all sorts of stuff you can't say.
Yeah. I can speak to everything that's been revealed so far. So,
sure.
It's a PG movie. It's a family movie. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's a comedy. I was confused by the vehement anti-Rob Zombie directing the Munster sentiment initially. I was certainly confused by the attack of going after Sherry, who's Lily, and who's I don't know an actress who works harder than she does. That's a fact.
No, they're both wonderful. They're both endlessly inspiring to me, both as a couple and creatives.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. Jeff is going to be great. And everybody was like, this isn't our Munsters. Well, no, duh. See, your Munsters,
right?
Respectfully are dead. So they can't be here anymore. But I said, I don't know. I did a video which people can watch. I speak in depth about this. I did it for a Haunted Mansion podcast, but it's also on my Facebook. Rob Zombie can do anything he wants. He's not a horror movie director. He's a director. He's worked in horror movies.
Sure.
But he's a director, and he's a filmmaker, and he's a talented cat, and he has people. I don't know that they understand that he's not just a guy who does the music. He also figures out. We have set designers, of course, on all those movies, and prop dressers and everything. But Rob will go. I use this experience as an example. If he doesn't like how a wall looked in a movie, he goes over and he picks up the paintbrush and he starts fixing it.
Sure.
He's a real auteur. So people will be surprised, and they shouldn't be. They should just go, well, if the guy can make a great horror movie, he can make a great comedy. The movie's going to be joyful fun. And I will tell you that it is hard to get movies made. Beyond that, it's hard to get a movie made that contains so many things that people feel they have to see in it. And many of those things are not a no-brainer. Many of those things require the filmmaker fighting for those things. And Rob fought for all that stuff to make it the movie. And I can tell you, there's been 2 other iterations of the Munsters since the great original actors passed away. And, I never talk. There's been 3 iterations if you count that Mockingbird Lane thing. But 2 where they were like the Munsters, and everybody tried their best. But I can tell you, and the other 2, which were TV movies, neither of the stories were. They didn't have a sustainable story. That's some things live in a half-hour format on purpose. The great example is every time they tried to make a Saturday Night Live movie out of a character from Saturday Night Live. Yeah. The pushback always was this character was great for 10 minutes, but for an hour and 40 minutes, it's not, it's not sustaining interest.
Yeah. Do we really need the ladies' man for 2 hours?
Or Night at the Roxbury for 2 hours?
But again, everybody tried their best. Nobody set out to make a rotten movie. I'm just saying that some things are made. Rob came up with a ingenious story that has a great through line, and it's not just a series of plot points. It's it's like a movie. There's a great beginning and a great end.
I'm excited to see what he does with, because from everything I hear, he's one of the biggest Munsters fans out there. And that
100%.
He always has been.
He's the guy that you want to make a Munsters.
Yes,
right. A true fan.
Yes,
a true fan.
That's what I was like. That's the guy that I want, man. Because that's a guy that's not going to be happy with anything less than something that honors the Munsters as much as it can.
Yes, that's why I might suggest that perhaps 1313 Mockingbird Lane, trying to always be positive, was well acted, and it looked cool, and the sets were great, but it wasn't someone committed to honoring what the point of the Munsters was. In fact, they completely made it different. They were like, no, the Munsters look great, but they're horrible people. All right, well, why don't we just call that the Dahmers? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or
right. Yeah, it didn't have the love there, right?
Yeah, dude. The skinny vegan guy is not the guy you want making your steak for you,
yeah,
right? You want the big fat meat eating guy. Like in the same sense, Rob Zombie is who you want making Munsters.
That's right. Yeah.
Speaking of the skinny vegan guy, he's Rob Zombie. Is the guy you want making the Munsters.
That's right. Yeah,
exactly. He is the skinny vegan guy.
Speaking of Granpa Munster, can you tell us at all how your performance in the movie was influenced by the original performance by like Al Lewis, and how your performance in your grandpa compares or contrasts to how Al Lewis played the character?
Well, it's hard for me to say how it compares or contrasts. What I could say is Al Lewis was someone I knew and spent time with, so I was very blessed to do that. I highly recommend his wife, Karen, wrote a book called I Was Married to a Munster. It's on Amazon. Very entertaining book about their relationship. So I promote that because she's a terrific lady, and I've known her for as long as I.
Karen Lewis, I Was Married to a Munster.
I think, yeah. So Al and I are from relatively the same area. It's not like I'm from Savannah, Georgia, and I had to be. I'm Granpa Munster. You know what I mean? I didn't have to do it like that. He's from the East Coast. I'm from the East Coast. And you got to go through him, because
Oh, that's
he had
fantastic.
his way of doing it. Herman, let me tell you. So now I can do impressions of. I played Jay Leno. I played Gary Marshall. I played many. I played a real guy last week. I said to him, Jay Leno, Gary Marshall, now you. People at home, I'm putting my hand on the floor. I had it high for them. And
I'm confirming the hand was on the floor.
The guy was a great guy with a great sense of humor. So you can't get into Grandpa without respectfully going through Al Lewis. I don't think you can do it.
Well, even the guy that played Herman in the '90s reboot of the Munsters, he was just doing a Fred Gwynn impression.
That was Edward. Edward. I'm going to blow your mind. I was on the set with him. He said he never had seen the Munsters in his life.
What?
Wow.
He was just kind of playing him a little goofy. I mean, they all, everybody had their Sam McMurray. I actually auditioned for the Sam McMurray version, the one that was the Munsters Christmas.
Sure.
Oh wow, yeah.
You look, and I learned a long time ago I've realized that that what's supposed to be is. By the way, it's I'm going to say it again. What's supposed to be is. So as an actor, when you don't get cast in something, you just have to really comprehend that what's supposed to be is. So you weren't supposed to be in that. So I wasn't supposed to be in it. And had I been in it, I don't think Rob would have ever considered me to be in this one too, because he wouldn't have wanted any kind of comparison made. So yeah.
Well, and again, I think when the casting announcements came out for it, and it was like Sherry,
Jeff Daniel Phillips.
I remember thinking the first thing I thought was, "Wow, that's a really odd casting for those characters." But then I immediately thought, you know what though? Again, no one loves the Munsters more than Rob Zombie. So if that's who Rob Zombie picked to play those characters, there's something there. There's something that Rob Zombie saw that was like, okay, well, that is Grandpa.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm intrigued by it. Like, I'm not being argumentative, but who would you have seen as Grandpa Munster? JB, is there someone like? I thought it was weird when people said, "Why him?" And I thought, why me?
Well, I didn't so much say why him as much as I did. That's not something I thought of. I don't think I had a dream cast in mind, right? Like, I don't think, like, I watch a lot of Munsters, so for me, like, it's hard for me to imagine anybody besides Fred Gwynn as Herman Munster. But I think I'm not saying so much that I was like, oh, that's the wrong casting, more of just, that's interesting. And then thinking about it, being like, man, I wonder what they brought to the table at the audition, that Rob Zombie was like, yep, you're Grandpa.
And I love that he's pulling from the DNA of his previous films, right? We're seeing recurring actors from his previous film, which is, I love to see that.
Well, I do that
because I love to see like the family that he makes with the actors and the people he makes his films
I do it in my movies. You like working with who you like. We'd never auditioned, he just wrote the part for us.
Wow. So there was no auditions. That means this was something that Rob had in mind from the very beginning. That's just amazing to hear. That just makes me more excited for this movie.
And again, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, in my mind, I'm like, wow, there's something, like, clearly there's something there that Rob Zombie saw that was like, okay, this is my dream cast. And, like, I trust that instinct because it's Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
Well, he always casts such wonderful like ensemble casts for his films, right? And I've always loved the people he picks and the character actors he picks, because he's a guy who loves character actors.
Well,
I love character actors, so I really appreciate when he like pulls entire casts from character actors sometimes. Look at House of a Thousand Corpses. Nothing but character actors, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. Or like when he cast the guy that played Sabretooth in the original X-Men movie. That's the guy that played Michael Myers.
Oh yeah.
And his
Tyler Mane.
Yeah.
Tyler Mane.
I remember people
Tyler
being
Mane,
like,
yes.
I remember people being like, Michael Myers can't be that big. He's too big. Michael Myers wasn't that big. And it's like, yeah, but this isn't John Carpenter's Michael
it's like,
Myers.
It doesn't matter,
like,
it
makes sense in his version of Halloween.
Yeah,
Michael
in
Myers,
Rob Zombie's movie, he is,
he's
and that's
a
all that
giant,
matters.
Brutal animal in that film, and it makes so much sense.
And people just, I feel like, really weren't able to put previous films aside and just enjoy those movies for what they were. Because I think both Halloweens are brilliant, and especially the chances he took with the second one.
Oh yeah, the second one's like a art. It's an art film.
Yes. It's a David Lynchian art film.
Yeah,
it's like it has all kinds of beautiful dream sequences, which I think are amazing.
Listen, you put You put a white horse in a dream, and you're clearly influenced by David Lynch. That's all I'm saying.
And then you play Knights in White Satin.
It's beautiful. I love those choices. Knights in White Satin. We've got, of course, you dressed up as a half Frankenstein stripper joint operator. So what else do you need besides that?
Yeah. I mean, well, and I feel like I read somewhere that was intentional. The Frankenstein suit on Zombie's part was because he knew you loved Frankenstein. It was like, I'm going to dress him up.
Well,
like
what's
that.
very
is that
sweet
true?
is I think that if I remember correctly, I was going to play the guy, and I was set to come like 3 weeks later. And he called one day and said, "Hey, I had an idea. There's this Frankenstein character, and I thought it would actually be better if it was you. Like that would be a funny tie-in." So we kind of made that up on the fly. So they rushed me down there and then put they put the Frankenstein makeup on before we had set who the guy was. We kind of knew who he was because I'm seen briefly in Halloween, but they cut the scene out. But then we aged that guy 20 years. It was Douglas No was the makeup artist. Boy, that was so great. I love that.
Yeah.
Hell
How
yeah.
was it being killed by Michael Myers?
Well, it's weird to say, isn't there a sublime joy to that? You guys gotta. I mean,
I believe it. I think so. Yeah.
I think I've been killed by Michael Myers. I've been killed by a phantasm sphere. I've played
Phantasm
Granpa Munster. In Lords of Salem, he cut it out, but I was dressed as a Frankenstein monster doing Frankenstein in the film within the film that was never they cut the whole sequence. Me and Keir DeLay and my neighbor Clint Howard were all running around.
Hell yeah.
Running around.
See, you don't need it. You don't need a bucket list. Based on all the things that you just listed, you don't even need a bucket list.
Yeah.
You've been living your bucket list.
No, it's true. That's what I'm saying. So what would but being killed by Michael Myers was good. Being killed, Tyler Mane is a friend and a good person. That was fun. We've worked on a few movies. I actually just put Tyler Mane in the Hail Mary. I cast him. I needed a bishop who had obviously played football because the character was a fan of football. So I was like, Tyler, do you ever play a bishop? No. Well, you're going to do it now. So, I mean, it wasn't that easy. I had to ask him. But he was.
And was that the movie you said you were editing
Yeah,
before
the
we
Hail
got
Mary.
on the line today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it was probably hard trying to find priest robes for a 7-foot tall.
the bishop thankfully generally walks around in just a black suit, but
it's fair.
you'd have to
Okay,
get
cool.
Tyler made a black suit.
Yeah, it's still a lot.
Still
of
a large suit.
Yeah.
So
So you mentioned you played Jay Leno on The Late Shift, and that's yet another memory of mine of you from when I was like a teenager, because I was that kid that was.
oh, thanks a lot.
So you're making this so easy. So I was obsessed with late night TV growing up.
Oh.
Like I loved David Letterman. I definitely took the Letterman side of that.
I
argument as a
would have
teenager.
guessed that just because I could see you. I would have said this son of a gun is a Letterman.
Well, so my question is, like, when you're playing Jay Leno in a movie that doesn't necessarily present Jay Leno in a great light, at any point in your head are you like, man, I'm probably gonna have to go on Leno at some point as an actor? And like, how do I face the guy that I do this impression of? But then I read that he was actually pretty cool.
He couldn't have been, in the first place, he couldn't have been nicer. I never bothered him until the movie was over. But I love your perspective. You really are like you've drank the Kool-Aid. David Letterman turned out, now do you know this, right? That he turned out to be a sexual harasser. And he turned out to be,
I did know that.
he turned out to be a hypocrite. And he turned out to be a bit of a douchebag. But you're still like, I'm a Letterman guy.
Well, no, I'm not. I mean, I think Jay Leno turned out to be a douchebag too, though, right?
No,
Like with
why
what
do
he
you
did to
think
Conan.
that?
With what he did to Conan.
He didn't do anything.
When they
You understand
he
that.
took Conan's.
No, but you have to understand that's not, Jay Leno didn't take Conan's job. They took Conan's job away from him. And then Jay Leno
It's
got another
executives.
job.
I
It's not how
think
it,
Jay
it's just
Leno
not,
had more to
it's
do
really
with
not how it works. No, Jay Leno couldn't say, I decide I'm going back to TV. It doesn't work that way. He was done. And then Conan failed and they went back and were like, please help us. And he helped them. That's really how it works. they don't really care about what entertainers think. They care about ratings.
By ratings,
That's
sure.
fair. That's
You know,
a true statement.
Conan though did better than CNN Plus. He at least lasted a couple more months than
Oh yeah.
CNN. Those poor
Yeah.
guys were like, I got a job for life for 31 days.
Right.
But anyway,
Well-
but I didn't think the Late Shift actually painted Day as a bad person. I thought it painted him as a guy who was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I think anytime they make a movie that shows the behind the scenes of someone that's of that caliber of celebrity, I think it's you know, you have to ask yourself, I would imagine as the writer, as the filmmaker, am I just gonna tell whatever the objective truth is with this story, or is this gonna be a puff piece? Is this gonna be
Well, it's
a
an
hat
interesting thing, you know, the director, I think, knew both David and Jay, and the writer was the same guy, Bill Carter, who wrote the book. So he wrote the screenplay, and Bill Carter's book is absolutely it absolutely leans toward David being the winner. But then they made the movie and they put the stuff in at the end of the movie. But in the long run, Jay Leno outpaced David Letterman forever. He always had many more viewers, and now, I mean, when you were a kid and late night was so great, and it was such a, I mean, if you guys, you just put on like just type in Don Rickles Carson,
Oh yeah.
and you're like,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
just sitting around and they're like making fun of each other, making fun of Ernie Borgnine, and you think, like, Ernie Borgnine can punch you in the nose, but it's just so joyful. And now they've made late night so political that nobody's watching it. They've killed it.
Yeah.
Instead of just telling jokes and having guests, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And remember, it was such a huge part of our life growing up to be able to stay up to watch the monologue. Your mom might say, "You want a monologue, JB," and then you have to go to bed.
Yeah. Well, yes, you hit that nail right on the head. That was always my favorite part of late night TV. I would stay up. I would try to watch all of the monologues. Yeah. Cool.
So we've got some fast horror questions for you. You said you're a big horror fan. You're a big horror collector. That's right.
Yes. Yeah, we can see it behind you.
Before the fast questions, where did your love of horror start? What was the first horror movie you ever saw?
Well, it's hard to say the first
one that made an impact.
I've been a fan for a long time, but I will say that the Universal horror movies, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Mummy, Wolfman, Dracula, were the what got me really into it. And I know this. I look back, and I know it was that moment that I realized that Boris Karloff was the monster, but in this movie he's Dr. Neiman. So now he's not. Then there's another guy. Now that's Glenn Strange is the monster. Well, that was Dracula, but now he's Frankenstein. Oh, now, now he was the Wolfman.
Oh, and Karloff is the mummy too, and he's the monster. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So that's kind of like really when I started getting the idea they're actors, and which led to eventually I wanted to do that, but there was a lot of steps in between. But that's how the universe, and that's when I say I collect horror. If people could see, they could go to danielroebuck.com, and at the bottom is a link that says House of Horror, and they could see what my collection looked like at its zenith. I have since gotten rid of a lot of stuff because I thought instead of talking about collecting monsters, I could make movies that made a difference in people's lives. And so it did require kind of jettisoning a good portion of that. But so around me, if people would see, I have life-size wax Planet of the Apes figures because they were an offshoot of the monsters because they were makeup.
And special effects,
monsters. And I have some of the toys. I collected a toy called Captain Action and still do. So that's how I got into it.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so now to our fast questions. Favorite horror monster / villain?
Our monster villain. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh,
hell
great.
Yes.
Yeah. It's always some of the most standout special effects for me.
Favorite,
yeah,
right?
Well, I think Wolfman was always like my favorite of the bunch, but just looking at the
Well, Wolfman's not a villain. No, I like the Wolfman too, but he's not the villain.
Right. Well, he's only half villain,
That's
right? When he's
I would argue that he's not even half.
He's
villain.
a victim and
I mean, it's kind of like the Frankenstein monster was also it had no ability to discern right from wrong. I know this isn't really the point of fast questions, but I chose the
They don't have to
creature
be so fast.
because I thought the creature who somebody would also argue it was, they were taking his.
They're in his habitat.
Yeah. So maybe I should just go. Okay, I got one. Ask me the question again. I got an even better answer.
All right, here we go. We're gonna try this again. Who's your favorite horror monster / villain?
The child catcher and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
No, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
I wrote a whole article on it for Scream Magazine. I had to write the scariest character I've ever. Child catcher to a 7-year-old boy. The child catcher with the note, and he danced and he had the lollipops, and that was some scary shit.
Yeah, it was, dude. Okay. Well, so Karen and I have been rewatching Twin Peaks lately.
Fantastic.
And similarly, I forgot how scary the character of Bob is.
Yeah, very.
In Twin Peaks.
Who's
like
Bob?
The actual killer. The killer spirit, the spirit that like inhabits Leland Palmer.
Long wild hair, denim jacket.
Guy that comes like crawling over the couch.
Yeah, I just don't
like that shit is terrifying. So like I feel you on the child catcher because like, that shit's traumatizing.
Yeah. All right, okay, go ahead.
Favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie, Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, a beautiful film.
Answer.
Yes. Favorite horror, hero or survivor?
I'd say Sigourney Weaver or
Excellent.
Reagan McNeil in The Exorcist. Did I have to?
Yeah.
You know what?
Great.
Those are the best answers we've gotten.
They're great
thus far from any of our interviews. Those are the best because we asked those same 3 questions of everybody.
And last one, a modern or new horror movie you've seen that you really loved.
The movie of recent that I remember like freaking me out was the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Probably 15 or more years.
You're talking about
Zack Snyder's.
Was that the one where they started running in the mall in Bing Rain?
Terrifying. Yeah, it's a great remake. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Well, it takes a movie that was already terrifying, and really the only thing it adds to the formula is that zombies are now fast.
Speed, yeah.
And that one fact makes that movie so terrifying.
And that script by James Gunn.
Yeah.
Oh, he wrote? Yeah, no, it's definitely. I mean, that's like top of the line director, top of the line writer. Turning their eye on horror movies.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so much fun talking with you today.
Yeah, man, thank you.
We really can't wait to see you as Granpa Munster and Rob Zombie's The Munsters. We're both going to see it on the big screen. I think it's coming out on Peacock, I think, as well with theaters, but that's a movie I got to catch on the big screen.
Yeah.
I don't know when or where it'll be out, but
we'll
when
be
it is
there wherever
please,
it is.
Yes, please watch it.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything else you want to plug before we go?
If we say plug, I would invite people if they thought, hey, this guy doesn't seem as stupid as I thought he would be because he's an actor. If they go to achannelofpeace.org, achannelofpeace.org, they can learn about how I'm making faith-based family movies. And it doesn't matter if you're a horror fan. Look, you're also someone perhaps who has children and wants to be able to watch movies with their children that are entertaining. I'm just trying to make entertaining movies, and they have the thing that connects them is that faith-based agenda. But something sweet and fun, and find Getting Grace, and let us know in the comments if these guys put this on, if you enjoyed it, and if you didn't enjoy it,
I can tell you guys it's on Amazon. Getting Grace is on Amazon, and it's worth it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to your listeners. God bless everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.